I'm delighted to welcome today Neil Jones, who is a mental health wellbeing consultant. Where are you based, Neil?
Currently based in Lincoln, but I operate across the planet.
Right, okay, wonderful. I think we've all turned international, haven't we, in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I moved from Switzerland back to the UK, so I had a client base abroad before I go back to the UK.
Oh, okay. How long did you live in Switzerland for?
16 years.
Wow, wow. What language did you speak there?
English, Geordie, and the local Swiss German.
Oh, right.
Indeed,
Wonderful.
the first job I had out there, I was teaching English to business people. And my wife was entertained with the thought of a dyslexic Geordie teaching English to foreigners.
Wow. And you did it?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I was very good at it. I ended up working in some very specialist areas, including I actually worked inside a nuclear reactor.
Wow, goodness. That's the famous one out there, isn't there? CERN. Is that where you were?
No. That's not a nuclear reactor. There are 3 nuclear reactors generating electricity in Switzerland at the present time. They're in the process of shutting them down. But CERN is a research establishment, not a nuclear reactor.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. Shows how much I know about the topic. So let's move on to the topic that we're here to talk about today, which is mental health. So as those who are viewing this on YouTube or wherever will see that your backdrop says Neil Jones Mental Health Consulting. So for those who are listening to the audio, that's what we're talking about today, mental health. So how did you come to be a mental health consultant, Neil? What led you to this path?
Oh, okay. It's a long and convoluted story. I'm dyslexic, as I've said. I dropped out of school because I couldn't do the A-levels. Writing 5 essays in 3 hours was just beyond me. So I went out into industry. I became a financial management consultant. I worked my way through management accounting and ended up financial director to a paper mill. When the paper mill was closed because we joined the EU, I decided I wanted to go back to university and get the degree I'd never got. So I did an A-level in economics in a year, which I passed despite not completing all the assignments. And I needed a second to persuade the local poly to take me on, and took an A-level in psychology and became fascinated. I then did a degree postgrad in psychology, and on graduation, I went out into the world. First place I worked was an urban adventure sports center working with special needs kids. So I was working with abused kids, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome. We pioneered working with autistic children and adventure sports. Indeed, we pioneered a lot of things at that time that I didn't actually realize we were doing. We were just getting on with the job in front of us.
Wonderful. When was that, Neil? What sort of year are we talking about?
That was back in the 90s.
Right. Very good. Early 90s, late 90s?
Mid 90s, I would say.
So when did you do your degree then? What age were you?
I was 26 when I started.
So an older graduate. My son actually is autistic, and he's finishing university now at the age of 28. Similar sort of thing. He didn't cope too well at school and studied himself and worked out what he needed to do with the steps. And now he's graduating this year in finance and accounting. So yeah, and I graduated. I got a master's degree at the age of 40. I didn't even have an A-level. So it just shows what we can do when we've a mind to. When
we find the right subject, the one that fascinates us.
Yes, yeah. And that's where all the people I interview, it shines through the passion. What they are talking about is the thing that they've been led to through their own experiences, typically, as in yourself.
Yeah, so I do find people who've done that are more committed and more knowledgeable on a practical level than the ones who simply did the degree because that's the next thing to do after school.
Yeah, absolutely. My mum always used to say people with their heads in the books, they don't have their feet in the real world, and they're of limited use because they can't translate what they know to practical terms. So yeah, absolutely with you on that one. So how did you get then from the the Swiss situation. Why did you come back to England from Switzerland?
Okay, I'll take you to why we went there first.
Okay.
After doing the Adventure Sports Centre, I ran youth training for special needs kids. I was then made redundant and did freelance work, working with businesses, connecting them with government money for specialist training events. I was married during that time, and my wife is a chartered mechanical engineer, and her job took us to Switzerland. So I went to Switzerland, a country I wasn't legally allowed to practice as a psychologist as, and spent 16 years freelancing, doing a wide range of things. I've worked with anything from penniless students to Silicon Valley. And the USP I had was native English speaker, and it was always people and mental health. I started coaching bankers to stop them burning out. I worked with people who had burnt out to restore them. And I started working with systems to change systems to improve the mental health of the people I was working around. I've actually done work with autistic and Asperger's people with Google, helping them train their managers to support the Asperger's and autistic people in the right way. So it was a very broad spectrum thing, which if you work in an expat community, you find if you're not somebody with a clear single career path, the expat community, particularly the English speaking expat community, pull you into all sorts of things. So anyway, yeah, my wife's job moved us back to the UK, and I came back and I started off campaigning about two things. One was mental health and the other was neurodiversity. Neurodiversity is Asperger's, autism, dyslexia, ADHD, and introducing these people into business in a way that benefits the business, because they are really powerful if you use them in the right way. And thanks to lockdown, I put the neurodiversity on the back burner, and I'm now talking to people exclusively about mental health and about being proactive about being mental health. My favorite quote at the present time, and I'm boring myself silly telling this to everybody, is one from Desmond Tutu. Instead of rescuing people from the river, we should go upstream and stop them falling in.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And that's entirely what I'm now trying to do, whether it's working with individuals where I help them build and maintain their mental health. Think of it as a mental fitness personal trainer. People employ personal trainers for two reasons. One is because they know what they're doing, and the other is they supply the discipline, an external discipline, to make sure that people do it. The same can be said for mental fitness, keeping yourself mentally fit, managing stress in the right way, avoiding burnout, even avoiding depression and things like that. You can do this by being proactive. But a lot of people, or even those who know what to do, don't apply the discipline. And somebody external nagging you once or twice a month for half an hour online can make a massive difference to keeping yourself mentally healthy.
I think it's really important to get external support, because we can't save the planet, we can't save ourselves because if we get ourselves in a pickle, you can't fix something with the way you got into it. You need to have an extra pair of eyes, a fresh pair of eyes, extra support from somebody who knows and understands, empathizes, and all the rest of it, without the rescue bit. And I think that's where a lot of people have gone wrong, myself included, because we know we've got a lot of the information and we want to rescue people, but it has to come from them, doesn't it?
Well, one of the lessons I learned from being an adventure sports instructor, I had to do a whole load of safety courses. I had to do a public first aid course, a mountaineering first aid course, a swimming pool life rescue course, a deep water life rescue course. I was actually Corps of Canoe lifeguards. I had to do mountaineering rescue teams. I did avalanche rescue. I did cave rescue. And the first lesson in every single one of those classes was save yourself first. Because there's no point in adding yourself to the casualty list trying to help other people. And so, for those who can, get on and do it. For those who are unsure or find they wobble, find somebody to support, encourage, and at times push you into making sure you do it right.
Absolutely. I find that with the work that I do with helping people with their health and well-being, it's not until the pain is bad enough that people wake up and smell the roses and take action. And even then, sometimes it's half-hearted because they just don't know which way to go. So having a mentor alongside them to handhold, but to gently nudge as well. I suppose it's meeting people where they are, isn't it?
It is. When I was working with the Swiss bankers, we would be talking about burnout, and they were smelling the smoke before they'd actually do anything. And as soon as they felt they were better, they would try to write me out of their life again because, well, I'm fixed now. And the idea that, you buy a car and you maintain it was an idea I had to push back at them. You don't just buy a car and run it to death. You run maintenance all the time, and you have to do that with your body and your mind. Otherwise, your wellness, your health and well-being simply isn't supported.
I have an issue with the term mental health. I grew up in an era where the word mental was mentioned. It was not in a nice sense. It was in a derogatory sense. If you were mental, which wasn't a nice thing to say about people. But that's as kids, that's what we said because we didn't know any better. The term mental health to me still conjures up something that's negative. I would really like to see mental well-being or mental fitness or something more positive. But the title mental health it's like somebody stabbing me in the heart and the stomach.
Yeah, it became synonymous with mental illness. And people would polite and say, well, they're not mentally ill, but there's a mental health issue.
Yes.
And it actually corrupted the concept. But I do think it's something we have to reclaim.
Yes. Yeah.
Like we talk about physical health, we don't think about people being ill. Even if they say there's a physical health issue, we don't think about them being ill. And I think we need to reclaim it by asserting it is about being mentally healthy, not being mentally unhealthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with you there. So the work you do now, Neil, what does it look like? Who are your clients? Where do you target your help? Okay,
I have three strings to my bow. The first is the individual. I was actually in a conversation. I was doing business networking on Friday at lunchtime in a bar. Everybody was very relaxed for some reason. And there was one young lady talking to me, and all of a sudden she was very tearful and admitting that there was flashbacks, and she thought she had PTSD. And I was the first person other than her boyfriend, husband, I'm not sure what the relationship was, that she'd ever told this to. And so I work with individuals with their issues, those who want to talk about the issue, because some people do, I can work with it that way. For those who aren't comfortable actually going back and visiting the event, we can work in other ways around it. So I do that. And this is a long 30 odd years of doing this sort of thing with people. I work with people who are mentally healthy to keep them healthier and improve their ability to use their mind. There's a mind state called flow. I don't know whether you've ever come across it.
Yes.
The science now says you could be up to 500% more effective in flow. And I help people understand how to create that in their own lives. So actually being more effective than you currently are is a true option. But you need to know how to achieve that mind state. And you need somebody to guide you through it. I also work with businesses. Before lockdown, there was a survey of middle managers in businesses about mental health. And over 70% of middle managers said they would back off very quickly from any member of staff whom they knew had a mental health issue, for no other reason than they were scared of making things worse. There was no technical support available to them in the environments they were in to help them support the person with the mental health issues. And it occurred to me that what they needed was an external consultant to come in and sit alongside the manager and coach the manager on how to manage these people if they arise in the business. So I supply that service as well. And the one I'm campaigning about, my proselytizing for the future, Going back to the Desmond Tutu quotation, I want to help businesses change their ecosystems to make the ecosystems mentally healthier. There are simple, straightforward things that can be done that reduce stress, reduce the risk of burnout, minimize the impact on people who are prone to depression. Those all in turn reduce the risk of anxiety problems. And everything doing all that boosts the bottom line. And businesses changing their ecosystem, literally changing the way they work inside the office, inside the factory, can see up to a 40% improvement in productivity across their staff by relatively simple, permanent changes to the way they work. So it's a one-shot fix for a permanent boost to productivity.
There's some really big numbers there you threw out, Neil. What exactly do you mean by an ecosystem? Just describe to me, give me an example of an ecosystem.
Okay. A weird one that businesses rarely think about these days, the soundscape. There's clear evidence that changing the sounds inside an office, particularly an office where people are trying to concentrate hard, can improve their ability to access this flow state I talked about earlier. If it's a noisy, bustly, disruptive office, it's a problem. And the old pig pen structures are terrible for that. But if you change the soundscape inside a business, you introduce more natural sounds. The sound of wind through trees, running water, bird song. The human brain tunes into that at a subconscious level, and people relax and become more productive. And that's not about changing how you're talking about people. It's not about changing the work they're trying to do. It's about changing the background to improve everything for them.
That makes perfect sense. It's a bit on a sort of a different analogy. It's like the music that's played when you're walking around a supermarket. They play music that encourages you to spend more money or feel relaxed and so on. So that could be done in the office as well. It also links in with
Silicon Valley's been doing this for some time.
Have they?
They're even building buildings with trees inside them.
Wow. Yes, actually, yes.
Building buildings around trees.
Yeah, I've been to some in London.
That sort of environment and give that nature inside the office atmosphere, because they know it increases productivity and improves the chance of people achieving flow.
And also the oxygen from the trees as well. There's a few buildings in London that I've been into, which they're glass buildings with trees inside, and they're magnificent, absolutely magnificent. It also links with the personality, personality styles as well, because some personality styles are more prone to burnout and others are more prone to internal types of health. Which I've seen.
There's a massive difference between working with introverts and extroverts.
Yes.
I've actually trained managers in the past too. The back office, it was a patent lawyers company down in Norfolk, and front office were very extrovert. They were the people who stood up in court and argued for the intellectual rights and all the rest of it. And the back office were very introvert, and teaching them how to talk to each other and how to meet halfway was quite a challenge, because they found they were losing business and actually losing cases simply because people weren't communicating in the right way.
Yeah, that's very common in the world I've been in for years with the behavioural profiling that I do. I've profiled many teams in law firms and accounting firms, and every single time the leaders are the extroverts and the back office people are the people who do the work, but as you say, don't communicate too well, and the people who are leading expect by some sort of telepathic way that they, and it's the pace as well. You mentioned about the sound, but the pace that people work at in an office causes considerable mental health challenges as well, doesn't it?
It can, even down to simply the vocabulary chosen.
Yes.
Voice tone. I was coached decades ago on how to use voice. Initially because I was a choral singer, and later in acting terms, how to use a voice to make people want to listen. And an awful lot of people have never learned how to focus their voice deeper into their bodies. So many people talk just from the throat, which has a bad reaction instantly. And the words you choose and way and how you pitch your voice make a massive difference to what attention people give you. You can cut through background noise if you pitch your voice in the right way. It's called projection. And I have actually communicated across the roar of a waterfall before now.
Wow.
Some idiot was going to do something and fall in, and my voice stopped them. And nobody else could make them hear, but I could get across that waterfall. So yeah, it's how you use your whole body to communicate.
Absolutely. And that has a huge impact on our health. I was talking to somebody only this morning saying about the language they were using. It's a client who has cancer diagnosis, and she's saying, my cancer. Well, stop using that. You know, you're in recovery you're working towards wellness. If you're saying something that's so negative, then your body will pick it up and you're never going to break free from it. The language is so important. Exactly.
Yeah. You're getting into the law of attraction there as well.
Yes. Yeah. Mind-body connection is huge, absolutely huge.
When I was studying psychology, literally this crazy story, I was walking through one of the buildings when one of my lecturers appeared in front of me. He said, Neil, come with me. And he grabbed me and dragged me into a first year class. Sit down. We're doing mind-body connection. I want to put a heart monitor on your chest. Like a lot of students, I was layers and layers of clothes because it was the middle of winter. It was a manky wet day. But all these clothes came up and I exposed my chest to a room of 40 students I didn't know. And he stuck some electrodes on me with this heart rate monitor and then said, relax. I practiced meditation from the age of 14. And so I went into my meditation routine. And then I came out and the room was aghast. And the lecturer said, you had them scared. The heart rate monitor had gone down to 0. It was counting how many beats in 5 seconds and then calculating how many beats per minute. And for more than 5 seconds, my heart hadn't struck a beat. Until then, I didn't realize that was how deeply I was getting into meditation. But by then I'd been doing it for 13 years. Every single night, 20 minutes a night before I went to bed, I would do a very simple, very basic meditation routine. And one of the things I teach people who have anxiety disorders is to meditate. It helps them sleep more deeply, which the sleep then cures the other issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Meditation and sleep are really important for overall well-being because we heal when we're sleeping, particularly if we go into deep REM sleep, where our body is healing. Then absolutely. Meditation takes many forms as well, though, doesn't it? Because we can actively meditate. You know, when we're gardening or doing the washing up or whatever, we don't have to sit there and make noises with cross-legged, do we?
No. I mean, rock climbing is a fabulous form of meditation. You have to be absolutely in the moment to successfully climb a rock climb. And you manage your breathing and you manage your heart rate almost instinctively, because again, if you panic, you fall. So it's a complete meditation, simply doing some rock climbing. Interesting.
So your three areas then, remind us what your three areas are that you concentrate on.
Mental fitness, personal trainer, supporting individuals to improve their mental fitness. Technical advice to managers who find they're in a position where they need to work with somebody with a mental health issue. I shouldn't say that with a mental illness. No, it neither works really well, does it? And the third is encouraging innovative businesses to change their ecosystems to make the entire business mentally healthier.
Fabulous. It sounds very straightforward when you put it in those sort of three headings, but each of them has got lots of information and work required.
There is no packages in anything I do, because everything has to be bespoke to the individual and the circumstances at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is no one size fits all in anything. And I think that's the difficulty that we've come to in the world at the moment. Everybody expects a button to press. to outsource so many different things, but we have to do the work ourselves, and we have to do it in a personal way that suits us. How do people get hold of you, Neil?
Through LinkedIn. I don't have a website.
Okay, what's your website?
Yeah, there is a Facebook page which I occasionally visit, but I'm not that. The people who are there are not the people I'm really trying to communicate with. My prime focus is making businesses healthy places. But connect through LinkedIn and message me. My email address is on the LinkedIn page, but you might not get a reply first time because I got mugged by an American spam machine recently, and I'm getting an awful lot of rubbish.
Oh gosh. Okay, what's your website, Neil?
Like I said, I don't have one.
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon if I missed that. Okay, so LinkedIn, Neil Jones on LinkedIn then.
Yeah, if you like, I will give you the LinkedIn connection page.
Yeah, we can put that on.
I'll put this into the chat.
Yes, yeah, okay, thank you. And bearing in mind people will be listening to this on audio podcast as well. So what's your email address, Neil?
neil.jonesconsulting@gmail.com.
And you do that once more for us.
neil.jonesconsulting@gmail.com.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for your time today, Neil, and hopefully this conversation will inspire some businesses and individuals to get in touch with you.
First hour is free with me if it's an individual. Initial consultations are free for businesses. I will listen to and talk with and help anybody, because that's my true addiction in life.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Neil Jones.
You're welcome.